Oh, there it is.
There it is. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 95 of Mirrorless Minutes. Man, we're getting old. We're like centenarians
I
of
know.
podcasts.
Well, yeah, exactly. Boy, it's getting long, huh? Almost
Yeah.
4 years too. August, 4 years.
Shoo-wee. Like a
No
little
way.
long-winded, a little long in the tooth, I guess we're getting here. It's pretty amazing considering that we do this every other week. So
Mhm.
that's a lot of it's a lot of months worth of people listening to us just babble on. It's crazy.
Yes, that's true.
So hey, welcome aboard, Pat.
Yep.
So this week's show, in case you couldn't tell by the title, it's about workshops. And we're not here to pitch you on the workshops that Mike and I do, but if you want to sign up, that's cool. But the whole premise of this is just to kind of talk about how our past weekend was, with the workshop that we ran in Atlanta, and just to talk about the experience of going to workshops and conferences and things like that and how they benefit you. Then we're going to do a photo share, of course. We're going to share the attendees' photos, and we're going to share some of our own takeaways from that as well. So I'm pretty excited to get going on, and I'm excited because I missed the last show. So
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty stoked to be back.
Yeah, and it was tough to get going. We had technical difficulties and bouncing around, and we got through it. And we're gonna see if the our attendees from Atlanta listen to us, because we said you might want to watch this week's show.
Yeah,
I'd like to see if they're watching live. See if anybody says hey to us.
But it's actually kind of interesting to have done this workshop and realize that not everybody on the workshop is like a regular listener. So apparently we have reached outside of this little window here on YouTube, which is pretty good, I suppose. And actually we had a non-Olympus shooter as well. So we definitely have to talk about that we had a spot filled with a Canon user. And just to let everybody know, in case you're interested or curious about the Mirrorless Adventures workshops and meetups, that we are camera system agnostic. We welcome all brands. You may convert to Olympus after one of our workshops. It has happened actually a lot of times. But hey,
and it's usually the live composite night that seals the deal.
It is. It always is. It's definitely live composite, and people see that on a camera that doesn't have anything like that, which nobody really does have the same thing. So they're always like, "Oh my gosh, why can't I do this?" I'm like, "Well, you can. Let's just sell off some gear and move over." Hey, exactly. Snap! We've got somebody from Indiana watching, which is always cool to have somebody so close to home.
Yeah,
we're definitely Midwest strong here.
Yeah, except for tonight, I guess I'm splitting up. I'm on the west.
Yeah, you're like Captain Desert tonight. So you're coming to us from
live from Arizona in Phoenix. I made a gear shelf. I threw my camera, my 360 up there. That's what I brought with me. So that tells you what I got for gear.
And it blows me away. I mean, we just got back from Atlanta, and you're like already in Phoenix. Like,
I believe me. Wow. I feel like that too. And then I get a weekend, and then I'm back to New Jersey and Connecticut. So lovely town. I think I like Phoenix though. It's a little bit brighter,
Oh, sure.
It'll be fun. And I get to shoot tomorrow night with Alex, which will be fun. Alex McClure, our another fellow visionary, and also Karen Martin, who lives out here, who actually was on the workshop in San Francisco with us, with me and Derek. So it's really nice to be able to shoot with her again. So yeah, if you're ever on a workshop and you're from another city, and I know you're coming, or Jamie, because now Jamie's traveling too. I'm sure we're going to reach out to you.
Yes, definitely.
and make you take us out shooting.
Yeah. That's the way to do it. You're kind of sneaking in there. Very good.
Right.
So I'll just kind of do a little recap of what this past workshop was. And then we can just kind of play off of that and just talk about, the perks and benefits of workshops. But for those who don't follow or weren't aware, Mike and I just wrapped up a workshop this past weekend in Georgia. Our home base was in Atlanta, in Atlanta. I think that was like all one long word for a second there. We were in Atlanta, and we were based out of the Marriott Marquis, downtown Atlanta. It's a stunning hotel, which in and of itself is a photographic subject. But that was home base. Mike and I rented a van, a big giant, 12, 15 passenger van. It was huge.
12 one, right. And it's still big.
Yeah, still big.
I drove it. I hit a lot of curves. Oh, I better not say that in case Nationals listen.
Yeah. So it was a cool twist on how we've done workshops in the past. In the past, you're either using some sort of public transportation or everybody's driving their own vehicle to get around. And this time we had that big van. So we had that whole like kumbaya thing going, where everybody piles into the van and we go from location to location. And
we sang between each location too.
I don't sing. I sang once this past weekend, though. We did have a birthday during the workshop. Victoria Diaz, one of the attendees and good friend of ours, celebrated her birthday with us. How cool was that? So we did sing a little bit. But so it was a quick workshop. It wasn't, like a week-long event. We arrived on Friday and we all met up and we went out and did some live composite on Friday night, which, started off with sunset and then shot as it got dark, which is a cool first way to get the evening going. Day 2, we started off in the morning by driving out to Old Car City in White, Georgia.
Right.
There's some definitely weird things about the naming of that town in Old South. But anyways, so Old Car City in White, Georgia, and then continued on to Amicalola Falls and shot the waterfalls and the babbling brooks and the copperhead snakes and things like that in the area. And kind of wrapped that up and then ended up coming back into Atlanta. And then we did a little bit of shooting the next morning as well in a very deserted Atlanta, which was kind of surreal to see no vehicles in our locations. But that was kind of the gist of it. It was a whirlwind. And then that last day after our morning shoot, we all got together in the presidential suite. More on that probably coming up, where we did some post-processing and everybody kind of called through their images and picked out some of their favorite photos and then did a big presentation on like a 70-inch display where people got to put up their favorite images and talk about the inspiration behind them and the equipment they used and things like that. And it was a great weekend for sure.
Yeah, it was long and I think very tiring for most people that were involved. But you know what, when you get into these things, what's so nice is, and nothing against your family, my family, or anyone else that's listening's family, but when we're with our family, it's tough sometimes. You got to say, "Oh, give me 10 more minutes. Give me 15. The sun's perfect. I got to leave right now. Or we got to go." You don't have to do any of that when you're with a bunch of photographers. You all want to stay longer, so it really does help. And I think everybody breaks through those walls of being tired, and just says, "Let's keep shooting. Let's keep shooting." And they think, "Oh, I can sleep Monday." So, and I think you and I did that.
Oh yeah. And it's funny too, because you talk about, working through being tired with all the travel and all the running around we've done and all the walking. And it just reminds me of Amicalola Falls. Everybody was hot and tired. It was a lot of walking. After having walked miles at Old Car City, now we're at Amicalola Falls and it's steep walk uphill. And it was strenuous. Everybody's exhausted. We all get back to the van and we all pile in and we're ready to close the door and we're doing a head count. We're like, we're missing somebody. So then we're like, okay, we're missing Ashley. And I'm like, all right, I'll volunteer. I run back and she was way, way, way up into the hills. She just comes bouncing down, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm holding everybody up." And I'm like, "No, that's great." I'm like, where do you have all this energy from?
To get up there.
Yeah. Like everybody else looks like they're about ready to pass out. And she's just all bubbly, coming down. And I'm like, wow, go girl.
Yeah. Awesome. I think, what do we have, about a 90-minute ride back maybe to the hotel?
Yeah. Yep.
They're almost 2 hours, but I would say for a good half of that, it was very quiet van, wasn't it? Like people were pretty much passed out. I felt like it was riding with my kids years ago. Like we're out.
yeah. Half expected to look back and see all the kids in the back, snoozing.
I know Brian Bright was snoozing, he said. So
yeah, well, definitely much deserved with all the trekking around that we did.
Yeah, for sure.
So Bob Panic in the in the chat room has a question. Wonders how many U-turns were on our adventure, because he's been on a workshop with me that involved, I think, only 2, but I don't know that I will ever live those down. Bob, I'm here to say we had not gotten turned around, but maybe like once. I think Mike had to do a U-turn once, which is hilarious.
Nice is when we get lost, we're all lost.
Correct. Right? Yes, sir.
Because we're all together.
But Mike had to try to U-turn this 25-foot long
Oh.
van in a road, and I'm afraid that we were going to do the Austin Powers, where we're like trapped in between the two. Well, we made it, and everybody had
6-point
fun.
turn.
Yes. So tonight's show, we kind of hit on the locations that we went, the time frame, it was roughly just a couple of days. It's quick in and out, but we packed a lot in without working everybody to death. Everybody seemed to have had a lot of fun, which is good. And I know we're going to do an image share. And the way we've done this image share is Mike and I have our own photos to share, which we're excited to do that as always. We always are, of course. But we're really excited to be able to share images that the workshop attendees took as well. So we kind of divided up the group, and I've got some of the people's photos, and then Mike's got some of the people's photos. I do not have EXIF data for these because we shared them all through Facebook, so that gets stripped out. So I'll just show the photos. I'll mention who it was, where the location was, and we'll just kind of go through those. Mike's going to do the same thing as well. And
you want to do yours first?
Sure, I'll lead it off. I'll be glad to. So let me get the screen share rolling here. All right. So the first one I've got here is from Ashley Black. And Ashley is the person who just had boundless energy at Amicalola Falls and got the most out of her experience there. So that was exciting. Let me stretch this out. There we go. Much better. So this obviously was taken at Old Car City, and I like cars. I'm a fan of cars. So being able to see just all the cool, the history there in vehicles was really exciting. And sadly, though, a lot of these are definitely out of my age range, so I could not even begin to tell you anything about the vehicle. But this was one that Ashley shared during her image share at the end of the workshop. And it was actually, I think, probably my favorite one that she shared out of that group. There was just so much juxtaposition in my mind between this sleek, modern looking jet design flying through this basically a sky of decay and rust. I don't know. I just thought it was super cool. And it was a good find by her, I think. So I was glad to be able to share that one. And the next photo is from Brian Bright. And again, so Old Car City, massive old junkyard / salvage yard that's been in this family for around 80 years. And there's just acres upon acres, 43 acres, 6 miles of trails, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars buried in there. And Brian found this cool old Thunderbird tucked away in the weeds. And I'm not sure if he used a fisheye or 7-14. I'm thinking it's the 7-14. I'm not sure. But I just love how he got in like really nice and tight to this, but still shooting it ultra wide. Just makes everything look larger than life, like it's this big old Hulk trying to work its way out of these weeds. So it was really cool. And I love the processing that he put into this image as well. So the next one is by Ashley's husband, David. And this was on night one that we were doing the live composite. And David spent time working, while a lot of us were kind of talking back and forth, talking about settings and what we were going to be doing. David was actually starting to shoot a little bit early and was getting some great live composite work while there was still plenty of light in the sky. So I'm almost certain he's got some filters stacked up here so that he could get a dark enough scene to get the live composite running. But he's still able to capture the whole sunset feel of this image. And this is the Jackson Street Bridge that we're standing on. And I don't know the highway that runs underneath it. I don't think it's 75, but if you just look up Jackson Street Bridge in Atlanta, you'll see that this is definitely a popular spot for photography, and it's easy to see why. David, Brian, and Ashley, all three of them were all shooting with Olympus cameras, just so you know. Obviously, if David's doing live composite. Another one of the members, Ed Rosak, he was there with something that definitely I'm a big fan of. So he had an infrared converted, I think EM5 Mark II, he said. And he was in there shooting with, I'm almost certain that this was taken with a Rokinon 7.5 millimeter fisheye, as it seemed like every time I saw the infrared camera out, that's the lens he had on it. And I know that he said that this was actually a series of images, I thought he said, to get to make a panorama out of this. Right. And you can see in the background there, I'm not sure who that, I think that might be David.
I think it is David.
David Black in the background. And Ed shot this purposely with someone in the frame so that you could get a sense of scale of just how big Old Car City is. And keep in mind that this is one row out of hundreds of rows in that place, and they're all like this. They're all just filled with cars that are covered in debris and stuff that has rained down from the trees over the decades. And like I said, I was just really pumped to see somebody there with an infrared camera. Of course, the minute I see the images he's getting, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and I didn't bring an infrared camera. I really should have. So kudos, Ed. I was, again, totally floored to see that. And the last photo was taken by our Canon user. We did not discriminate against her or pick on her at all for shooting with Canon, and she did wonderful work with it, obviously. And this again was one of the ones that she shared during the image share portion of the workshop on the last day. And it's, again, my favorite by her. I just love the way that she framed the car through another car. And I really couldn't tell you anything about the lens that she was using. I thought she said she was using her fisheye on this because she had just gotten a fisheye. And I think she's shooting with a 70D. Does that sound right to you?
It does. Yeah, okay. I thought it was too. The 70D. Yep. And I remember her saying fisheye as well.
Okay. Yep. So that's kind of what I was thinking here. And like I said, I just really dig the way that she framed it. And because it's a fisheye, you know, you've got your depth of field is so deep. So you've got everything moving through the vehicle that's in the foreground. You've got detail in that all the way back to the car in the background. So, you know, those are the ones that I'm sharing from workshop attendees. And like I said, it was so cool to see how everybody else saw the stuff that I was seeing. So,
yeah, boy, the infrared one, right?
Yeah,
that was it was just so big, and to see it, you know, I know we're seeing it now on everybody's different screens, but if you've got a big screen TV like we saw it on that 75-inch, wow, that just that was crazy.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah. All right, let's see. I've got 4 that I'm going to go through, and let's see. Let me know. Do you? Whoops! I don't know why that came up. That's mine. That's not what I want. We didn't see that. All right. I'm not sure why it's not coming up. Where we go. Okay, we'll find it. I'll get it. I hit application window. Don't tell me that. All right. Hold on. Here we go. Application window. And that is that one. And now.
There we go.
Okay. Okay. So this first one is from Carl. And I want to speak to this first one and the last one. Not that the middle two didn't do this, but the first one and the last one, we encourage everyone during our workshops, not only from the beginning, but throughout the whole thing, to remind everyone, don't do what you always do. You're in a workshop, try something different, whether it's, you know, like this with the light painting and writing, or different art filters, or double exposure, something within your camera. Do something different that you never would do. And if you look at it here, this fence, Jamie, this was a funny project on the way back from our long day. Jamie kept looking at all these overpasses going into the city and looking for holes in the fence, and he found one. And we went back that night with a bunch of us, and there really was only one good hole cut in the fence, so we did not do another cut. But we all shared, you know, on and off. So as we were sharing and shooting the live composite off to the right going into the city, Carl, who you know, comes to us, Carl Short comes to us, and he turns around, like you're always told to do, turn around and try something different, look the other way, shoots this, and does it with the I'm going to say this right, with the back of his iPhone and his flash on. Am I correct, Jamie, in saying that?
Yeah. So what you do is you have your back facing the camera, point your light back towards the camera over your shoulder.
Right.
And then you can write normally. And when you write normally, it's gonna, if you're right, if the light's facing the other way, if you write normal, it's going to show up normal on the camera behind you. So if you're using a flashlight, put your back to the camera with the light facing the camera, and then just write like you normally would, and it'll show up properly in the exposure.
And what was nice about this, I thought too, because whenever you do light painting, one of the things you want to do is some stoppage, because you need to go to another letter. And Carl was able to cover up that light with his thumb. So it was real easy. And he threw this, he just threw the word love. I don't even know if he was saying that he went out thinking that, but he said, I just did this. And I think it's a great shot. And it just shows when you get around a bunch of other photographers for a couple of days, you start thinking, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try something different. Okay, so this next one over in Amicola Falls, this is from John. John shot this shot, and I think it all knocked us out, because I've got to tell you, when Jamie said everybody was tired, you had to walk up this steep hill, and I mean, you could walk and walk and walk up the steep hill for a long time to see the beautiful giant falls. But as you walked, some of the very first runoffs of these falls are right next to you. And this one literally was 50 feet from the parking lot. And so you would never know that, but him putting this giant log and then framing it with the two trees along the side, it almost looks like he stumbled upon this as he was walking through the forest. I just love the look that he put together on this one, and the combination of that natural frame. Again, one of those things we talked about on our workshop. And Lamar came to us, and Lamar is one of I think the only other workshop attendant that, other than myself, that had been to Old Car City before. So he knew what he was getting into. So he had sort of a plan of what he was trying to attack. And this is one of those shots where you look at the rust and the time that car has sat there, but then you look at the door handle and how clean and sharp this is. And, one of the things Lamar does, and he's really proud of it, he hardly does much post-processing at all. He loves to use image share, or the Olympus image share, right from camera right up to his Instagram. Everything. You talked a lot about that. So kudos to Lamar for finding this composition and everything that it was entailed within it. Great shot. And the last one here is Vicky, our birthday girl. The last day, as we were coming back from, we were shooting in an old cemetery, Oakland Cemetery it was called. And actually, this was on the way out. We thought the cemetery had closed. So we stopped and we saw this beautiful entrance to the city. And actually, Jamie talked about the bridge that we shot at night on Friday night. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but across this bridge you're looking at right here is Jackson Street Bridge. And this is where we were shooting from Friday night. So behind that bridge, during the day, we had this beautiful sunrise coming and hitting the city. And here's, Vicky's taking the shots, and she goes, I like city views and that, but sometimes they bore me. So she goes, I just put it in the line art filter, which I've always have a hard time finding anything that fits in the line art filter. I know others have said that. And she does this, and this thing looks futuristic cartoon. It's just awesome. I think she did a great job. Of course, she still has the raw if she wants to process it, but that motorcycle was just fantastic putting it in there. So some good shots. Boy.
Yeah. That line art shot is just, it's probably one of my favorite shots from the whole weekend, and for several reasons, and not the least of which is the fact that I have never been able to use that art filter and get anything that I thought was worth anything. And then Vicky shares that at the image share, and I'm like, holy crap, are you kidding me? That is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I remember, I'm certain when I flipped the button to go to that one, I remember like hearing in the room, like, oh, wow. You heard it like a big gasp come from the room.
Which is cool. And so this is one of those things too that we always talk about workshops. Everybody goes there to learn something. I have never been on a workshop that I'm like part of, the running of. I've never run a workshop or been involved in a workshop and not come away without having learned something myself. And so now this was definitely a big takeaway for me. Right now, I currently have the line art turned off on all my cameras. I had given up on it completely. Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's going to come back on now. And now I know that I can definitely focus on like cityscapes because they turn out phenomenally cool. So I'm pretty pumped on that.
Yeah, me too. And we do a lot of them. I know I do a whole bunch of them when I travel because that's usually the only thing I can get to at night.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun trying that for sure.
So is Vicky charging us for that?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Hey, we bought her a birthday cake or a cookie birthday cake.
That's true. That's true. So,
do you want to go ahead and do some of your own?
Sure. Yeah, I've got more than normal, but for reason.
All right.
So, all right. So I'm gonna go through and share some of the images that I shot while there. So this first one, again, is inside the Atlanta Marriott Marquis. Now, the defining feature of this hotel is that the entire building is like a giant atrium. So if you follow Mike or I on Facebook, you've probably definitely seen some shots of this hotel this week. For those who haven't, hopefully you're watching this. If you're not and you're listening to the audio version at a later date, come back and watch the YouTube video because you have to see the inside of this hotel. It's just mind-blowing. I'm not sure how many floors it is. Was it like 44, 46?
Yep.
So you literally from ground floor or one floor up from ground floor can look straight up, 45 plus floors all the way up. Now, this is there's a bar on this, like the second level or whatever, and that's kind of what we're standing outside of here is that bar, and it's got this sort of structure on the top of it that reminds me of a sail. But I just wanted to incorporate that into the scene just because it's lit up in different colors and it kind of casts a color hue on the different levels of the floor here. And this was shot with the 8mm fisheye. And obviously I've panned up a significant amount because I wanted the distortion from that lens to play with all the organic shapes in this hotel. So that's just looking up from the hotel lobby. Next shot is taken at Old Car City. Mike had kind of spoken with everybody and said, it can be overwhelming when you get into a situation like this because there's hundreds and hundreds of cars and it's in the woods and there's so much going on that it might be hard to figure out what to do. And Mike had told people, find a theme, find a subject and kind of focus on that, and work that through your shooting there. So that's kind of what I did. Is I took Mike's advice and I went through and every single car that I shot all different aspects of it. But I made sure to frame and pay close attention to the badges on the vehicles. So the names. So I've got Impalas, I've got Falcons, I've got Thunderbirds, I've got all different kinds of cars. And I made sure to focus on those. So that's what this is. This is a Ford Falcon. I think it's a Ford, right? I don't know. It's getting before my age. I'm a youngin', right? So, but I just loved all the different texture and color that was going on in this shot and the way that the light was filtering through the trees. I was just kind of smitten with this. Totally not any kind of rule of thirds action here because Falcon is dead center in the frame, but on purpose, of course. It's kind of how I wanted it. And straight out of the camera. There's no editing to this one. It was just beautiful light in there. The next one, Amicalola Falls. And again, it's just kind of one of those things where you get into a situation and by default, I kind of wanted to shoot like the whole entire, section of the falls, this big long section. It's probably 150 feet long. There's 15, 20 different spots where the falls step down. And I shot one like that. And then I went back through, and this is with the 12-100. And I'm zoomed in at probably 70, 80 millimeters, somewhere around there. And I just started picking out these little bits of the whole scene and just focusing on those, focusing on the vegetation that was growing, and the waterfall just kind of becomes a part of the background at that point. So I just picked out these little vignettes that were going on inside of the big overall picture. And this is shot with filters, obviously. So I had a Nisi 6-stop neutral density filter on, and that's it for this one. The next shot is Mike. So this is one of the overlooks that we passed by on our way home from Amicalola Falls. Or were we? Yeah, was it home or were we going to the falls? We were going home, weren't we?
No.
Or was that to the
way
falls?
out? We were on our way out to the falls.
Out to the falls. Okay.
Yeah. That's because that's the only time it rained while we were in the car.
You're right. That's right. So it did rain on the weekend. It just rained for literally about 2 minutes while we were in the vehicle.
Right.
But we saw these overlooks that overlooked the valleys there on the way up to the falls and had to stop. And this one was really cool because there was so much graffiti around. And you can't take the urban and street shooting out of Mike. I don't care what the landscape looks like around it. So Mike's composing, I'm assuming, he shot of this big, vast valley in Georgia with this graffitied up guardrail in the foreground. Yep. So, when you're with a bunch of photographers, you end up inevitably shooting the photographers. And with that said, we did a selfie. So Mike and I had to get a picture of ourselves in the hotel. And I just wanted to share. This is again with the 8mm fisheye. And it was fun.
Yeah, that's a good one. I need a copy of that one.
And then the last one, Mike and I were going to get lunch. We had a little bit of downtime. And Mike says, you have to see this escalator. He says, it's like the longest escalator you'll ever see in your life. And man, he wasn't joking. So this was in the Peachtree Plaza, I think, which is like a food cart shopping kind of center area that's in between all these hotels. And I think that this escalator goes down to the MARTA public transportation like train. And so Mike was shooting all these people going up it. And I'm like, well, I got to shoot Mike shooting the people. So it was just fun to, this is with the 17 millimeter f1.2, and it's wide open at 1.2 because I just wanted to kind of blow everybody out, you know, as far as focus goes and keep all the focus on Mike. So yeah, that's just that was my stuff that I shot over the weekend, you know, a little bit of rust, a little bit of nature, and a little bit of people.
Thanks for showing everybody my bald spot. The world and the bald spot. See, I wasn't wearing my hat. Now you know why I wear a hat all the time.
I think everybody was looking at the escalator, to be honest.
Probably, except for me. And that's usually what happens, I think. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. All right, well, I've got a few here. Okay, do you see that one first?
Sure do.
Building. This was nowhere near Atlanta. And the rest are all Atlanta pictures. But this one I only wanted to bring up because I had gone out shooting the week before Atlanta with Lou, my buddy Lou, and in Detroit. And this is on the campus of Wayne State. I don't know if it's wide enough here. Here we go. That might be better. I don't know. On a laptop, it's hard to do all this. But I wanted to show what the 8 millimeter fisheye in-camera correction is on the EM1 Mark II, what it does. This is the JPEG that it puts out. I mean, you can imagine this building from straight on, how curved it was with the regular fisheye in it. But when you use that when the new firmware obviously put out the correction, the fisheye correction, and I just love what it did to it. On top of it being a longer exposure, a little bit of cloud movement in that. So I wanted to bring that up and show you how easy it was. And that's a JPEG, and you know, obviously you're exposed right, you're there. Okay, so let's go into Atlanta and Old Car City. First one I've got to show is a reversal tiny planet. We'll call it a wormhole. But whenever you're in trees and you're trying to shoot these 360 images, it's fantastic when they're trees that are so tall like that. So they give that like natural framing, and you can just tell from this bus how long it has sat there. And I don't know if Jamie saw this bus, but I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty sure it was full of 3 or 4 foot high inside transmissions were inside there. I mean, it was a storage area for transmissions. So transmissions that were out of cars are just piled into a bus. There's no seats. But you know, with that backdrop and that nice flat, I wanted to put that together. So here's my shot of the hotel. And I went and took a little bit different spin, looking straight up, making it more square. And you could just see the multiple floor after floor after floor. And then I did some, I call it duo toning, or some toning and split toning in Lightroom to change colors a little bit and make it a little bit brighter. But really you could shoot this thing all day long, just at every different angle. Here's one of the Cadillacs that I loved. They're covered in every possible thing that could fall from a tree. But on this car, not only can you shoot it wide like this, I've got a series on Facebook. You can get up closer and just shoot the 2 bumpers. I mean, look at these bumpers. Imagine bumpers like that today. Why do they stop making these? And then this awesome hood ornament. I mean, you could go crazy macro on that thing. There's so much to do just on one car. And that's where you can just go crazy, like I was talking about Jamie. And then the one night, late night, after all day long on Saturday, we did go out and do some live composite. This is one of those ones we were all shooting through that hole. But I found a different spot, very safe. I do want to say it was still safe, down alongside of the expressway. And it was able to throw it into vertical, and it was hidden by a wall, obviously, so I don't have any problems there. But I really love this NCR building and what it does to give the lines. And of course, couldn't have been happier when I saw a bus come by, because I always get happy when live composite in buses. So yeah, so that's just a quick fun. I have so many to do. I'm sure you do too.
Right. Yeah.
Like I look at them, I go, I gotta just pick these real quick.
And I think that in all honesty, this workshop, I shot more photos than I've shot in a long time. I shot as many almost in 2 or 3 days as I did in that like 5 or 6 days I was in Tennessee, which is just crazy to me to think that, that I shot that much, but
and that's, and we know the attendees shot maybe twice as much as us, because a lot of the times we're teaching and instructing. So that tells you when, like, you're with your family, you want to be with your family, and then sometimes you can't do all the photo things you want to do. So our workshops a great investment. I absolutely believe they are. Owe it to yourself to get to learn.
And for anybody who's heard Mike mention it in the past, it's true. It's a great opportunity to disconnect from the norm and do what you love to do around people who love to do the exact same thing.
Right.
So, like he said, you don't have to worry about stopping to shoot and then having to say, well, I'll catch up. Hold on. I'll be right there. There's none of that. When you go on a workshop or a conference, it's dedicated to the thing that you love doing, which is photography. And you don't have to feel rushed to do anything. So, I don't know how many times I would walk by somebody at Old Car City who was set up taking a shot, and I'd walk around and look up the next aisle and then come back and look again in the aisle, and they're still around that same car, 15, 20 minutes invested in one subject, whereas in your normal life, you probably can't spend 15 or 20 minutes shooting one thing. You got to play catch up, with everybody else. So definitely
it's fun.
It's an investment in yourself as well as, your hobby or your passion. So
exactly. So I think we've given some good reasons, and you know what, just looking at the attendees' photos, I think that's a reason right there. Because so many of them, I know, we're a little nervous about showing their photos in that slideshow at the end. And I think by the end, I don't think anybody wanted to leave. They wanted to see more photos of everyone.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a real important part. So we've made 10, 11 great new friends. And hopefully they all live in different cities that they'll take us out shooting someday.
Right. And that's, before we go to, that's another good thing to mention, is that you met Vicky through a workshop. It was Derek's San Francisco shop, right? Workshop.
6 years ago.
So 6 years ago, still friends. She comes on workshops that we're doing now, 6 years later. And the same with me. I mean, people that I've met on these workshops, I'm still talking to this day, on a regular basis. So it's a great place to meet new people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like-minded.
Exactly. Right. So, well, we do have, I know we're going to end up, but we do have something. We don't have it out yet. We've got some exciting news to put out. It's Jamie and I are going to do we'll call it the Mirrorless Adventures Mirrorless Minutes followers, whoever, fan appreciation workshop. We don't know what it is yet. Photopalooza.
Yeah, there we go.
But, on the west side of Michigan, on the 23rd, am I right? June 23rd?
June 23rd. It's a Saturday.
Right.
So we're
completely free.
Yep.
And maybe tell them a little bit about what you're thinking.
Yeah, so we'll probably end up doing, so everybody knows that follows this or talks to us, Mike is hardcore city, urban, street, people, like the architecture, all that. If it's city, that's definitely Mike's wheelhouse for sure. So we'll probably start off in Grand Rapids. It's on the west side of the state. It's got a great downtown area, lots of cool stuff to see and shoot. Yeah. So we'll focus on that. I don't know if that'll be like Saturday morning or Saturday day or midday, however it works, probably, So we'll explore all around there, probably get some lunch together and do some shooting. And then we'll end up a little bit further west on the lake shore, more like what I like to do, my wheelhouse. So maybe taking a sunset. I've got a really cool beach that I've taken several people to that has some great wooden pilings that stick up out of the water. They make for beautiful foreground. And then maybe we'll do some shoreline shooting and sunset shooting on the west side of the state. And it'll be free. You just show up, and even though we're not billing it as a workshop, if you show up and you have any kind of a question,
We're
ask
there.
us. We're there. That's what we love to do. We love to teach.
Any camera, again, any camera.
Yes.
Bring your iPhone. I don't care.
Yep. I guarantee you show up, no matter what you're shooting, we're going to help you get a good photo or 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it'll be fun. So we'll put something out. It'll be on the Mirrorless Adventures page when we get it.
Yep.
We want you to sign up on the page first off, we want you to sign up for the meetup group. So you always know when we do stuff. But secondly, sign up for the event if you want to come. And, it's just, and that's only so we have some idea of how many people we actually have.
Now, we won't have a giant passenger van to tote everybody around. So you will have to show up with your own vehicle, but the driving is minimal. The distance from Grand Rapids to this lake shore that we're talking about shooting is 45, 50 minutes at the most. Okay. But it is a beautiful location to shoot from. So it'll be worth it. And Grand Rapids is a cool city anyways.
I was just going to say, there's not how many places where you can get to a cool city and only drive 40 minutes and get to a lake shore.
Yeah, especially a lake shore like Lake Michigan. So yeah. So it'll be a good time. Again, meetup.com/mirrorless adventures. Go over there and sign up. And then that way you can be a part of this meetup. So that's that. Yeah. And yes, Bob, panic 45 to 50 minutes plus U-turns.
Yes.
No, fine. I don't think so. So anyways, I guess we'll end this show. Thanks for watching, you guys. And again, remember to swing over to meetup.com/mirrorless adventures and sign up. Even if you're not going to come to this next event, sign up there so that if we're in your neck of the woods, maybe we can all meet up. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Take it easy, everybody.
Yeah.